All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. And today we are talking about ADHD and AI, optimizing productivity using ChatGPT, Midjourney, and Otter.ai. Welcome to our session. If you give me just a second, there we go. It's just 5 o'clock now. We are going to give it a couple of minutes for some more people to join. I'm just going to take a look at how we're doing for participants. But before we get started, I wanted to start welcoming you and tell you a little bit about how we're going to run the webinar today. First of all, my name is Gabriel. I'm a community builder based in London, and I'm supporting Essa, who's the organizer of this event, and you're going to meet him in a moment. So I will be here pretty much supporting all parts of the webinar, looking at any messages. Let's actually give it a test. I'm going to look at the chat. And if you guys are there, anyone who's around, just type something on the chat. Just say hello. Tell us where you are dialing in from, for example, or just one word to sum up your day. Just tell us something, and I will check out that we can see it. Let me look at the chat window. Chat. There we go. Right, just a second. We got attendees here. And there we go. We've got 17 people so far. Just giving it one more minute. We got 20 now. And let me see. Just a second. Okay, so now going on housekeeping on the webinar, a couple of things. We're going to take everyone through very practical session, things that you can do step by step, and Essa will explain very soon. And you have the chat to comment at any point, say anything while it's happening. If you have big questions or something you want to kind of ask Essa for the end of the session, please use the Q&A. The Q&A feature is where you will ask questions for the Q&A part. But if you want to provide a comment, or maybe, oh, I'm not getting this in particular, just tell us. I'm just trying myself to find how to see the chat because I can only see the panelists right now. But I will get that sorted by the time we start. I'm just separating the chat and we'll get ready. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing today and who we are. So ADHD and Tech is a community started by Essa, who's the founder of ADHD Well. And the whole point is that in the tech world, there's a lot of people who kind of basically are somehow impacted or affected by ADHD. Essa is a coach that specializes in that in particular. And, you know, seeing that there's a lot of entrepreneurs, creatives that kind of feel identify in that space. He started this community, and we did our first event earlier this year in September, which went really well. Hopefully some of you went to the event in person. And today is the second one, but today, because it's very practical and very technical, and then we're going to do this online. But yeah, the idea is to bring people together and to have these meaningful discussions in the subject. Now, Essa, as I mentioned, is in the room, and I'm going to introduce them now so I can also sort out the chat. Yeah, please welcome Essa. Essa is the founder, as I mentioned, ADHD Well. He's an entrepreneur, being founder himself, being in the space for a while, and I've known him for years. And he is amazing at coaching people in this. So, Essa, hello.
Hey, Gabriel. Yeah, I'm muted, right? You can hear me?
Welcome to the session, your session. Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Question, can you see comments on the chat?
Yes, let me just have a quick look at the Q&A. I think there's a message saying chat is disabled. Can you enable it? I think there's someone called Jonathan.
Oh, right, exactly. Okay, yes, that is a good point. Essa, you're the admin. Maybe we should get this on the options, see if you can activate it before we get started, so that we can see people in the chat.
I've just
that would explain.
sorry, go
Yeah, okay. I can see now the comments on the Q&A. So yes, please, can you look at the options while we get started and see if you can enable the chat?
Sure. So yeah, I think I've just put allow attendees to view and comment. I'll have a look at the other stuff in a second as well, but just wanted to first say hello to everyone. Thank you for showing up. And a big thank you, Gabriel, without whom none of this would have happened. He's been amazing at both helping organize a lot of this stuff and helping keep my neurodiversity in check whenever needed. But yeah, Gabrielle, just checking. I wanted to say I'm not okay, cool. If you guys just give me 1 second, I'm gonna make sure that the setting issue is fixed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry about that. And Gabrielle, is there any place in
Yeah,
where I can enable that from?
it should be on your options there. Hang on. Yeah, apologies everyone about this little hiccup. It should be on the settings in the lower area of the Zoom.
I'm just checking.
And if not, what we can do is we can just keep all comments on the Q&A, and I'll be looking out for them and reading them. Okay.
So yeah,
So
I'll do one thing. So let me just, pardon me. I'll just get this ready.
I can see the comment from Brett. Love that you're demonstrating the issues with tech. Yes, we are. We're doing that live, and that was the point of the session. But we will get through this. But yes, Lisa, don't worry. Let's look at comments. I will keep an eye. Let's look at comments from the Q&A.
Okay.
And I will keep an eye. So you go ahead with your session. You have lots you want to share today. So why don't we focus on that?
Okay, sounds good. So hopefully we won't have too many more technical problems. And yeah, I'm just gonna start sharing aspects of my screen really quickly. But yeah, hey everyone, thanks for showing up. I think we've got 33 people in now, which is brilliant. And I'm just going to, yeah, this is all working. Cool.
Okay, and just a reminder, any comments, just type them on the Q&A. I'll keep an eye on them even if they're not a question. There we go.
So I'm just going to share all of my screen. Apologies if there's any pages or stuff that are hidden away, but actually let's just start. Cool. So welcome to our first ADHD and AI event. So just for context, I work in a few sort of roles. And actually, I should probably start with this. I have 14 years of experience as a product designer. I've been working as a startup mentor for certain organizations. And I also, product designer, ADHD coach, and startup mentor. These are the organizations that I'm working as a startup mentor at. And in my experience as a designer, there's a lot of companies here that you might recognize that I've worked with. And in terms of context where this comes from, I realized a while back after spending a large number of years as a startup mentor that, when I figured out my own ADHD, because I was only diagnosed about 4 years ago, what happened is I started to see the patterns as I learned more about who I am and realized that I was sort of already doing ADHD coaching for a while because I'm not sure if the viewers here are aware, but I think there's a 4x chance that people with ADHD become entrepreneurs because of how their brains work. And I started ADHD Well as a way to help people who have a background in entrepreneurship or who are in the tech industry focus on what matters most, understand who they are, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, if you haven't already noticed from the technical issues or me jumping back and forth from a few things, I have ADHD. combined type. And what I usually do is, I'm just checking if there's something here that's worth mentioning. No, I think I can go back to these slides. What I usually help people with is understanding how they work, why they work that way, and what could be done about it. What I don't do is sort of those posts in which 10 things that can help you figure out your ADHD, etc., because I find that it's very, very, very personal. And a lot of things influence that. So I think I'm having a couple of questions. And yes, some people have already
Yes, you have a question here.
it's brilliant. Where are you based, Issa? I'm based between London and Oxford in a town called High Wycombe. I offer coaching online for people across the world. But in London, I work out of a space called Makerversity in Somerset House. The other thing is Britt Sarani also mentioned that ADHDers are much more likely to be entrepreneurs. So perfect, we do know that. So let me just share one thing at the start, and actually ask, and let's see if the raising hand mechanism works here. And again, thank you everyone for your patience in advance. This is my first webinar. So we learn and do better in the interactivity element for the next one. But by a raise of hands, assuming that that thing works, can everyone who has a diagnosis already raise their hand? I'm curious to see how many. Okay, that's good. Keep going. Oh, there's something so pleasing about like a number just ticking upwards. Okay, brilliant. So far we're at a large chunk of like where it's
18 out of 34, 18 out of 34 was the highest we got.
Yeah, we have around half people here who have been diagnosed. Oh, and if Issa adds you as admin, we can enable chat. Okay, just another thing, quick thing. If everyone puts their hands down, how many of you are happy for me to take just a 60-second detour to try and fix the chat? Okay, that's.
Let's do this, Issa. So why don't you make me admin and I will do that.
Sure. Thank you very much.
So find me and make me a co-host or an admin.
Sounds good. Okay.
Find me on participants.
Host. Is that okay?
Or panelists there.
I'm making.
Yeah, just make me.
But you have all the power now.
Brilliant. Absolutely. So why don't you continue taking us through what you were showing with the board? Sure. And in the meantime, I'll be working on that.
Sure. So actually, I'll just jump into sharing my screen in a second. And considering about half of you have a diagnosis, I presume that the rest of you are either suspecting that you might have ADHD or might be what I like to call ADHD adjacent, which is that you have people in your life who may have ADHD, whether it be a partner, a family member, and you might be curious about learning that. So in terms of what ADHD is, I'll just give a quick bit of context. And I think my favorite way to explain it is usually a glass of water, using a glass of water. Now, I won't drink all of this to show it in real time because then I'll have to get up and go to the loo. But if you think of dopamine, right? And this is an oversimplification in a few ways. And if you think of someone who's neurotypical, they might be around the halfway mark, which is neutral. What happens there is that if they pet a cat, eat something that they like the taste of, hold the hand of someone they're interested in, are watching a show that they like. Oh, fuck. Yeah, we have chat. I stopped myself from using an expletive just in time. But yeah, the idea is that if any of those things happen, boom, they go up. In terms of dopamine, they feel that nice, warm and fuzzy feeling. And all is good. And it takes a while for that to just keep going. And then it slowly sort of weans off. I'm probably here. And to be fair, I think when I got diagnosed, it's really weird, but because of my upbringing, because of my background, and because of how I've been told for most of my life that I'm just lazy, I need to try harder, I need to try meditation to calm down, I just need to like relax more. And none of that helped. It's quite interesting because a lot of people remove what they misunderstood is that there might be an intent behind what I was doing, but that's not true. And just to go back to this, I remember when I got my diagnosis through a very reputable place, I spent a lot of my time trying to convince the doctor that, you know what? No, I just need to try harder. And she was like, Issa, you're pretty up there in terms of your ADHD. And didn't you just say like 5 minutes before that during university, you were so stressed about how much time is passing and not realizing it that you had 5-minute alarms throughout the whole waking day? And I was like, damn you and your logic, which is actually my logic. But the thing here that happened is I was here. And now if I do any of those things that I mentioned earlier, I just go whoop, and I'm not even at neutral yet. And the thing that's really tricky is that a lot of times ADHD isn't understood very well, and how when you're low on dopamine, it feels like lethargy, depression, like just generalized anxiety, etc. But there's a difference between like a person who's consistently depressed versus an ADHD person, because if you start talking about something they're interested in or give them something to jump on, all that goes away. And I'll wrap this part up with one thing, which is this beautiful quote I absolutely love by someone called Sir Ken Robinson. It was a TEDx talk that I never understood fully till a few years ago after my diagnosis and my subsequent learning, which was the story of a girl who was struggling with a few things in school and this and that. And mother took her to a doctor. And after chatting a bit, the doctor said, could you step out with me for a second? And he went with the mother, went to the other room, and they shut the door. And it was one of those, you know, in those movies from America, you have the one-way windows. He looked in, and the girl didn't know that they were watching it. And literally the minute the door shut, the girl got up and started moving and swaying. And the guy said something to the mom, which still get chills, which is, your daughter's not sick. She's a dancer. She needs to move to think. And the analogy I use with a lot of cases is, yeah, I'm a dancer. I need to move. I need to talk. I need to engage in things. I need to do things that are higher, either risk or higher stimulus to feel good. And that was not understood for most of my life. And it's unfortunate because of what is possible once you learn how to do, like once you learn how you work. And the last analogy, and there'll be lots, the last analogy for now is that I think a lot of ADHD people, what they go through is they are born and given the wrong manual on how their brain works. So now, without further ado, I'll start jumping into one other thing.
Yeah, before you do that, just giving you a few comments from the chat. We got a comment here from K. Joe saying, I totally relate to all of the above, and also hyper-focusing on issues that arise suddenly, like the chat situation that could detour on your thoughts.
Yeah,
we got another minute.
I think there's all of these things, and it's just so wonderful. And yeah, I think someone also said, have a think aloud. It's like, yeah, ADHD buddying or body doubling, right? And that's actually very relevant to something I'm going to get into in a second. I'm just checking when you are told those things for so, yeah. So for context, I'm quite open about these things. I have complex PTSD as well, which makes certain things trickier. But ADHD is so complex that I can probably do another session soon after in which I explain some of the subtleties behind it. But for now, I just want to share this one slide to put certain things into context. And it's one of my favorite things. Now, and you can raise your hands, anyone who has answers or thoughts about this or thinks or agrees. But if you look at this slide, I'll presume that unless you've been to one of my talks, because I use this as like a cognitive palate cleanser. Qualia is a phrase that, or a word that a lot of people don't understand the meaning of, because to be honest, why would they? But let me just say this. I designed this, and if I tell you the top left ones here are red, green, blue, like literally RGB, the base values. Assuming you haven't heard this before, does anyone have any idea as to what these other colors represent? Feel free to ping it in chat. I'll just give you guys 10, 15 seconds to check. Spectrum, okay. ADHD and tech links. I'll get back to that question after. But I think there's one person who's had a go, so good job. But let me explain this. So now you guys can probably see these paintings behind, and I like this because this represents the part of me that's just explosion of ideas and creativity, and the thing I've had to learn, which is sabr, which is patience in Arabic and Urdu. But let's say hypothetically, if you look at, sorry, I just realized the mirror image is hard to work with proprioception, but let's just hypothetically say that color is red. Okay. Now, when I look at it, I see what I understand to be red. And if I ask someone else to give me what that color is, they might be like red, they might be like, oh, dark orange, burnt maroon, something. But the thing that I found interesting, which like literally blew my mind, was this concept of qualia, where you have no way to interpret how another person interprets the world. Literally, if you look at the cones of people's eyes, you could see maybe what receptors they have. For example, women have more on average, and they can see a wider range of colors. But if you, let's say someone was looking at this, it's possible that they could be seeing something completely different. And my wife was an audiological scientist. Now she works in medical editing, but she told me how when they apply cochlear implants, till a person practices, the people sort of hear other people talking like.
Issa, can you for a moment stop sharing screen so they can see your screen, your pictures behind better?
Yes. Here it is. And yeah, so perfect. So let me go sharing my screen again. The thing is, how your brain interprets those signals and stuff can be wildly different. And a person could see this as what I would consider as green. But ever since birth, they've just had people point over to this and said it's red. So that's what they've named the color. So in terms of what this is, and I'm just going to check chat. There's some really well-informed people here, which is brilliant. I'm loving the chat comments, but I'll just share one thing here. What I've done here is actually just replicate these 3 colors, but to represent the 8 common forms of color blindness. And the reason I love sharing this at the start of events as a sort of like literally like the ginger you have between sushi to clear your palate is because look at the ridiculous amount of difference in the colors and everything. And what's happened, and I might get a bit emotional, but it's okay. I think that always happens. I'm not, as far as I know, colorblind, but this is a perfect example to highlight something. Look at this example on the right. Now, I presume that a lot of you can read this and most of the others, but if you look at the right one, can you guys read this third one? Probably not. And the thing is, if you can, it's very, very dark. Now, think back to our own, you may have similar stories and stuff, and I'll quickly jump into the AI stuff in a second because I'm aware of time and the technical difficulties. But I just want to highlight one thing. I'm thinking back to when I was much younger, and people who would see the red, green, blue things here would be like, have a look at this, read this. And I'd be like trying, but all I would see is this one. And I vividly remember times where people are like, Essa, are you stupid? Why can't you read this? Essa, you're just lazy. You need to try harder. Why don't you sit still? Why don't you just focus? And unfortunately, for a lot of my life, I didn't understand that. And one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing is because I am in, like, what inspires me, what gets me excited is doing my level best to reduce the chance of that happening to anyone else. Because what we have to understand, and like I have aphantasia as well, for example, 3% of the population reportedly has it, where you have no mind's eye. When other people sort of visualize something, they can see stuff in like 4K and it's really annoying. And for me, I just sing that, like, I just imagine that song, Hello, Darkness, my old friend, because I don't have the mind's eye. And brilliant, we found someone else with aphantasia. The idea was that when people told me, go to your happy place, visualize this, I thought they just meant it in general. Okay, so what we can do now is hopefully be a bit more aware of the perspective that other people might have. The perspective that the way we see the world may not be the only way to see the world. Okay, and now this is where it gets fun, hopefully. I really hope so. Ooh.
Okay, so what are we doing today, like next?
So I'm going to show you some things. So if anyone's not used this before, I've just jumped into ChatGPT. And more specifically, I've jumped into ChatGPT 4, which is their newer model. I'm just going to briefly hide the floating meeting controls. So Gabrielle, if there's anything that's a question or something relevant to what I'm doing, please let me know because I can't see that briefly.
Yes, I'll be here to give you any comments or anything. What we'll do is going to try to run through the examples to get through all the content we need to get through. But by any means, if you have like any kind of doubt on what he's currently doing, do send them on the message screen. I'll read things to you, and then for any more specific Q&A, we'll deal with them at the end.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for that. So I think the thing I'm going to do, which I very deliberately decided is, and Gabrielle, seeing you is very reassuring and it gives me someone to talk to rather than just talk to an empty screen, which I do anyway, but okay. So one thing as well, if you guys think of anything that you are having trouble with or struggling with, put it in the chat. I'll see if there's anything that might be interesting and relevant and pop it in or tell you how to put it through. Now, what I found is that because I work as a product designer and I like print myself stuff to remember medication and just make things, I like to sort of play with things and see if I can find ways to do things that people haven't considered. And now in terms of ADHD, what I didn't want to do is, oh, here's some outputs. This is what you can do. Thank you. Goodbye. The reason is that there's a lot of times where people will tell me what certain outputs are. But the problem is that based on how my mind works and how I sometimes can feel overwhelmed, the issue is that, sorry, I got distracted by one of the interesting questions or chat things. But the whole idea is that it's really weird, but task initiation is one of the hardest things. And I wish it got easier over time, but some often doesn't. And then I just start something. I struggle to start something, I put it off, and then I start something and it's done in 5 minutes. And I'm like, why did I spend a week struggling with this? And actually, task initiation, and I think Kejo mentioned, I use it when I find it hard to start something. Perfect. Now, and brevity. Yes, that's another thing I'll get into. Okay, so the thing I wanted to share specifically was real world examples. And I wanted to show you how I'm doing it with a few examples where I offer breadth rather than depth. Because what that does is allows me to show you a range of things. Now, let's think of one example where people usually struggle with regards to ADHD. And I've pre-typed a couple of these just for convenience. Oh, and it's completely ignored that. So let me just do this by actually doing it the old school version, reading and typing in. How many people here at the point of thinking about a new job or searching for a job find that incredibly overwhelming, or their rejection sensitivity is like, you know what, I might not get a new job, I'm not good enough, imposter syndrome kicks in, and maybe I should just stay with my current job? Raise your hands if anyone has ever felt like that or struggled with the...
We've seen hands being raised. We are on 17, 18, still coming up.
Perfect. So here, I've prepped some examples, and I'll give you some real-time ones as well. But what people forget about, like what people don't realize is, as I was talking about the ADHD buddy effect, guess what? You have an AI you can chat to, and it can help you with a lot of that. But here's something I put down in very plain English, because you forget that with a language model AI, you can do this. And actually, let me just rewrite this. I'm looking for a new job, but I'm not sure what might be suitable for my combined ADHD. I am also someone who struggles with imposter syndrome and let's just say low self-esteem rather than rejection sensitivity. So I can easily be overwhelmed in such instances. Can you please help me with ADHD-friendly advice on how to go about finding and shortlisting a new job? And this is a very important thing. One last thing. I don't respond well to walls of text as it gets a bit overwhelming. Can you please share one item at a time? And as I respond, ask the next question. I hope everyone can see this well enough. I'm just zooming in as well a little bit. Could you tell me what work and look at this. It turns it into a conversation. And I know that this might be something that's more appropriate for people with combined type versus inattentive, who can sometimes struggle with initiating certain conversations, for example. But what also is worth mentioning is if you're inattentive ADHD primarily, what happens is that unlike a real world conversation, you have no pressure to be really quick to answer. It's an AI, you could come back tomorrow. Doesn't matter. So let's just say, can you tell me what work conditions help you feel most productive and comfortable? I like working around people because it gives me stimulus, but not having managers people micromanage me. I like work that isn't always rushed. And the cool thing here is there's no wrong answer. And you can just go through all of this one by one. So great, it sounds like you do this. What kind of tasks do you enjoy doing? And what are your key skills? Talking, sometimes too much. What else? Creative tasks. What else? Making physical projects, design, and presenting work. Boom. Let's see what happens. Oh, and set up a profile? No, actually, it's pretty straightforward. You can actually just go to chat.openai.com. I think you'll just be able to find it quite quickly. And you just
there is a
sorry?
Sorry to interrupt. There is a question in the chat saying, do you have to set up a profile and input a lot more info about yourself into ChatGPT for it to work best?
No, yeah, and I'm so the thing is, you can sign up, you'll get a free account. And the thing is that you can use ChatGPT 3.5 for free, but 4 is much better for things in which require logic or thinking of a certain kind, right? So now it's here, here's a few roles. Now, one of the things I'll do just in interest of speed is show you something that I find that a lot of people with, like in my clients and stuff, struggle with, which is some big change like moving. And actually what I'm going to do for here, just to make it more interactive rather than static, is this. And oops, sorry, I should have let you read this first. But I have ADHD, struggle with planning, breaking down tasks and task initiation. Moving to London, trying to find a suitable place. I'm overwhelmed by choice. Can you help me figure out what to do in a step-by-step conversation? And again, you notice the pattern here. I've said, do it one at a time. Yeah, and Bing AI apparently comes across as free, so brilliant. All right, let's take it step by step. Top priorities for your new place in London. Budget, proximity, location, be able to walk to work, which is probably going to be very optimistic. To walk to work in under 20 minutes. And now what it's going to do is it's filling out all the blanks and it's like having a chat. Okay, I work at basically a workplace, Somerset House near Charing Cross. And this is where the optimism comes in. How's your budget? Now, this is not my budget for rent, but I'm just going to give it in terms of just the experiment, right? So you can see here that it's already starting to just go through each of the steps. And one of the things I'm aware of is that with ADHD, sometimes it's hard to actually get the big picture. Or sorry, no, you have just the big picture, but breaking it down into individual segments is really tricky. The cool thing here is that it doesn't matter if you have all of the things planned out, because this conversation and stuff is where it comes from, right? And just as a heads up, I gave it prompts and I gave it things yesterday because I already had ideas and stuff what to do. And this document is actually something it helped me generate and then clean up. So I have a big project due. I just don't know where to start. The deadline seems far, etc. And I want to highlight the natural language element of that, because a lot of people get really stuck in the concept of, no, I need to like spend £1,000 doing some course in which I learned how to phrase things better. Don't worry about that. Just think about asking for help from a person or an entity that's always welcome to give it. So let me just say this. I have a huge design project. to help with e-commerce, help with an e-commerce website. I'm not great at planning in terms of breaking things down into smaller steps or providing accurate estimates. Can you please help and ask me any questions you think might help? I'm deliberately giving it something without too much specificity. Now you can see here that I forgot to mention the thing about give me one question at a time, but I think you guys get the idea. And I think the slide is a prompt guide. I think you mean the notes that I have here. Yeah, happy to share them. I can even put them up online on some Notion thing, right? But on this, I think we have all of your emails and things, so we can ping that across. So
yeah, we can put together any assets you want to
yeah.
send everybody and
Now,
send them all together.
Yeah, so let's do one thing. Let me just be realistic here. I mean, like, oops, I'm a bit overwhelmed now. Overwhelmed because that's too much content at once. Can you please just go question by question? And look what it'll do. That's it. Oh, it's slightly confused, but I think it's taken one scope section, which is fine. End goal, design. And let's say, because I almost wanted to have some real world interactions where we can welcome things going wrong to show you how, like, a lot of us have gotten used to masking, where we don't let people know what our problems are because we don't want to ask too many questions because we're worried that people will think we're stupid or we're bad or we're silly. But prior to this stuff, I just got really comfortable with sounding like I'm silly, or just because I have lots of questions. That's how I understand. So let's just ask it one thing. Actually, this is too much. Can you please just give me a template that might be useful for scoping design projects based on a 2-week project timeline? Now, after this, I'm going to move to another instance of what I'd like to talk about. Yep.
You can also check out some of the comments that have just been left now.
Yeah, exactly. The SMART formula and stuff, all of this stuff is very relevant. And I think the main thing I want to just highlight here is the technology is there, and the technology can adapt to a lot of things that you want it to do. But what's really important is shaking off one aspect of it, which is that we shouldn't think about it in the same way as we interact with people in the real world, because the idea is, the beauty of ChatGPT is literally you can ask it as many things as you like. But let's go into another thing, which is pretty fun. Now, if I think of someone who's interested in entrepreneurship, which is very relevant to the audience and myself, let's ask it one thing. So I have a background in classical singing. So I just have an example in my mind right now, which is my singing teacher is Ustad Siruddin Sami, who is the last master of a 48 microtonal, scale in 1 octave. Can you please help me consider what frequencies each of those 48 notes in an octave might be? And what happens is that it actually can, if I'm not mistaken, unless they've updated it recently, what it can't do is browse real-time internet, but it has information here. And you can see that it's gotten all of this together. And now it's like explaining this, but it's like, okay, let's take 440 hertz as a reference and let's start. It's also taking a second to figure some things out, but it's going to give me all of those frequencies. And I remember when I started out, I was like, I can't understand that. Like, I need to sort of visualize, I need to see, I need to feel, I need to hear stuff. So I had to do this whole thing that I'm going to show you now manually. But ChatGPT opens a lot of doors and it removes a lot of barriers to entry for people, because check out this. Thank you for this. If I was to use Python to write a program, sorry, let me just say this. I'd like to hear a progression of those notes. Can you please help me write some code for Python that would help me generate the notes for those 48 frequencies? Now what it's done is it's giving me the library that I need. It's giving me the sound devices. And look at that. Now, don't get me wrong. If any of you are developers or interested in code, you're not going to be losing your jobs anytime soon, because there's a lot of subtlety and there's a lot of other things that go into creating products, especially ones that are scalable. But in this case, what you can just see, and I remember just trying this for the first time and thinking this wouldn't work. And I was just like, holy, like, yeah, like what? It did that. And this time I didn't have to do the maths individually and then manually do it in a sound recording thing. If you ask it, and you can just click this and click copy code. But the number of things that you could do here, it's just astounding. And what's amazing is that for a long time, people, like the schlep work, which was tricky, made life hard for a lot of people. And by the way, I'm just changing Windows to open another version in which DALL-E comes through, which does something even more fun, which is, how should I put this? I'm trying to design an ADHD friendly office. So one of the things I do, which you'll see in a second, is I also help advise companies and individuals on how to create ADHD friendly workspaces. Trying to design an ADHD friendly workspace, home office, but I'm not sure. Sorry, actually, with light tones and a balanced mix of color, but without it being too distracting. I'm going to put in a fun thing which might or may not work. Please also include a Hag Capisco chair. Fingers crossed, let's see what happens. So for those of you who might not know this, I'm just checking a note. Yes, it can help with a lot of things like the IT platforms and stuff, because as long as that information was available on the internet prior, which it was, you can literally just say, how would I go about this? How would I do this? It will look at those. Oh, look what just happened. Yeah, you have these two images of what it might look like. You can iterate it. You can do a lot of things with it. It's just, what if I just do something else? What if I'm looking to create a minimalist poster for my event called ADHD and AI. Use dark mode colors with subtle, friendly, colorful accents. Let's see what happens. And again, like the images I want to share here, I'm not sharing in the sense that you're a designer or someone who already can do a lot of this. It helps in that instance as well. But what I wanted to show you was how to defeat another monster that we're quite, like one of the monsters we're quite used to facing, which is task initiation. Where do I start? I've stopped actually researching certain things on, there we are. And let me just clarify, some of these things won't be perfect. And I know Gabrielle's looking, is like, Essa, why didn't you do this earlier? Why did you design it manually on Figma? It would have worked either way. There's a few subtleties and things that, oh yeah, and I will jump into those things as well. Good, thank you for the reminder. So there's a few things that go awry. So let me just show you. This was DALL-E and ChatGPT linked together, but now let me show you Midjourney, or actually in terms of being quick about it, I want to show you this.
Just a question on what you were doing before on ChatGPT, right? Because I think maybe some others also might be thinking about this. But do you need to install any additional kind of plugin to be able to see and create images on ChatGPT? How did it get to the image?
Sure. So, and by the way, just because if we're doing this webinar alongside it, it won't hear Gabrielle. But I wanted to show you Otter.ai, which is going to just transcribe stuff as I ask this question. So, okay, I've gone silent, which is not intended. I think that's because it's recording. Let me stop this and hope that it goes back. Can you guys hear me again?
Yeah, the voice was we could hear you, but it was much lower because it was also recording you.
So in terms of the ChatGPT stuff, nope, you don't have to install anything. And you can use the free version for free. Or I think it can be between $15 to $20 a month for ChatGPT 4. There's nothing else that you need to. And I love this. When people said, Essa, you've gone quiet all of a sudden, I was like, I've never heard that in my life. Because usually I'm quite energetic and loud. So thank you everyone for giving me one instance of that. But yeah, the thing here that I'll quickly also do. So in terms of what ChatGPT 4 gives you, let me just do one thing, right? Because I'm aware of something a person asked about the other platforms. I'm just going to upload this, and then I'm going to, in case we have it, and in case some people can stay around for a bit longer if they have questions, I'm happy to sort that out. But the thing I wanted to show you here.
So what tool are you using right now?
Good. So I am using Otter.ai, and let me just do in terms, oh, that's not the thing I wanted to open. So yeah, just Otter.ai. Let me see if I can use the other browser to show you what that looks like in terms of a landing page. And actually, let me just log out of here. Where have they hidden that? Okay, I'm just going to have to use incognito mode. And hopefully there's nothing problematic. Yeah, literally this. You can upload and sync any audio that you have. It transcribes it all. And then I hope that this works as expected. But you know how some transcription softwares will just transcribe and there's a lot of errors? What I can do here, which I'm not sure you might be able to hear. Thanks for joining me today. Really excited about the event. And it'll actually play back and highlight stuff. It can also summarize text and get it all together. Now, one thing I'll just check here. So this was something where I recorded. Let me just copy to clipboard. This is something where I'm doing an event at Somerset House called ADHD and Makers. And it's a very short thing, but what I wanted to show you is, hi there, can you help me? Yes, Otter.ai. Can you help me turn this batch of text into something simpler and cleaner and more succinct? I'll just remove the Otter.ai. What Otter also does, and pardon the, it's basically summarizing this. It's not the perfect example. I just did this as a really quick thing, but there's a lot of things that can be done. And what I'm really excited about is talking to you about like ideas on even an individual basis. And just because I'm aware of time, I'm just going to share one thing really quick. With a lot of the people who are interested in this stuff, and I should really have checked whether this QR code has worked already, but let me just see this. In case anyone is interested in having like an intro session to either ADHD coaching or just wanting to learn more about ADHD, or saying, hey, here are some specific instances of how I get stuck in these day-to-day things. Can you sort of give me some ideas on how to work on that? Yes, I would love to. So the last thing here, I just want to show you, which is sort of similar to DALL-E, but not exactly. It's Midjourney. And weirdly enough, this is actually one of the harder things to sign up with because it's built on a service called Discord, which is like a messaging service. Or like, just a comms type of thing. Now check this out. Earlier on, and this was, I think, something I was showing to someone just for fun. Imagine the terracotta army, but with cartoon soldiers wearing pineapple hats. But this was something more specific related to my product design work, like medication containers that might be more friendly to what I'm doing. So here you can see a few revisions, and I'll just show you one instance quickly. The way that Midjourney works is slightly different, or actually quite. If there's any questions about how to sign up, I will look at what they've done now because they're rapidly iterating and help however I can. But let's say I like one of these, right? Let's say hypothetically it's this one. What you can do is 1, 2, 3, 4. U means upscale, which means that I like this one, make it more detailed or make it finer. V means variations, strong variations. Sorry, pardon me. Upscale comes later. This is subtle no, sorry, I was right the first time. Let me click V4 and see what happens. But this is one thing I just also want to open up. Can someone please give me whatever that comes to their mind as 1 or 2 sentences prompt-wise? What is something you want to visualize? It can be as silly or as crazy as long as it's safe for work. Feel free to type.
Okay, Issa, while we wait for someone to type something, just come up with any sentence that you want to visualize.
Okay.
But we have a couple of comments that you can answer while somebody types something on the chat.
Sure.
And it's regarding Midjourney and Discord. Okay. So
let me get it. I got
here.
one. So Gabriel, I got one and I'll just do it now. So I just want to explain one other thing, which is you press / Alexa, stop. What happens with Midjourney is there's a few other things that I can happily get into in the questions, but if I just click this, I type in / and you have to write imagine. And in terms of, I want to see a bearded dragon Christmas party. I'll phrase it slightly differently because you want to say imagine something, something, something. So imagine a bearded dragon in a Santa Claus outfit
At a Christmas party.
Yes. Outfit at a Christmas party. And by the way, Midjourney does not do well with text on posters and stuff. It just gives random text that no one understands. But yeah, I love the suggestion, Angelica. So what happens here is it's prompting. I've put the prompt through. Oh God, this is going to be fun. What it's doing is it's like slowly generating the image. And there we have it. And Angelica, because this was your suggestion, can I ask which of the ones do you like the most? Number 1, number 2 here, 3, or 4? Okay, number 1. Now I'm going to click 2 things here. I'm going to click U, which says upscale, and I'm going to click V. Now, of course, unless your job requires you to look at and create wonderful pictures of bearded dragons, this might be like, how is this useful? A lot of ways. Think about an ad campaign you're running. Think about a background image for your profile on LinkedIn. Think about not your profile, your banner. Think about events. And no animal cruelty included. Although I would, if I was a bearded dragon, I might just think I look really snazzy. But let me just show you this as well. When I clicked the other one, it starts showing me different things. And here's something I also want to show you, which is quite fun, which is imagine Star Wars. Actually, no, let's go for, imagine if Star Trek outfits were designed by Dolch and you probably, I probably am spelling that wrong, but let's see what happens. But what about one of the things I've been wanting to make is a 30-day product which allows you to slowly reduce your caffeine intake if that's what you want. Packaging, imagine colorful packaging inspired by Pakistani truck art for a tea-based admin calendar. And the thing, oh, that's starting to come through as well. And yeah, pardon me, because of any, like the technical stuff, if anyone has any questions and stuff, add me on LinkedIn. My full name as shown here is Essa Saulat. Message me, I would love to, oh, and there we are. So for all you entrepreneurs in there who are like, you know what, I just have an idea, I can't visualize it yet. Great. And actually going back to visualization, remember I said I have aphantasia? I love this because it helps me visualize the concepts without building the entire thing. And prototyping. Instead of going through several iterations of physical ones that take you weeks, maybe you like this one. And this is the one thing before I pass it on to Gabriel, because I think he has something to say. There's one law for the internet, which I forget the name of, but it's, you don't, if you want to get an answer on an internet forum or somewhere on social media for a question, don't ask the question, post the wrong answer. That gets you an answer like this because people are like, oh, by the way, that's wrong. This is the answer. Something similar happens with Midjourney and DALL-E. Sometimes what happens and what helps you figure that out, like where you want to go, is actually just seeing what doesn't work. And look at these. It's just incredible. And oh, sorry, Gabriel, just one last thing I want to show you guys, because if you're not sure how to write prompts, you can use multiple AIs. And sorry, my enthusiasm here is just ridiculous. I'm trying to use Midjourney to create an image related to the following. Can you please help me come up with 3 prompt ideas that might work, remember the prompts should start with /imagine. And I just want to show you this, after which I'm going to pause, thank everyone who has to go. And then if anyone would like to stay for questions or other stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly where I wanted to get. I know we're over the 1 hour time.
Yeah, and thank you so
What we're
much.
doing is
I'm
we're
just
sticking
full
for a
this.
little longer. Those who need to go, yes, you can. And also, we might do a second part of this webinar if there's enough interest. We will be sending a little survey soon. So if you really like it and you have comments or maybe more things that we can exemplify in a future webinar
Yes.
or event, do let us know, because the more interest we get, the more that, we'll get it's kind of working on more topics to discuss and so on.
And the
So
better we'll
carry
get
on.
at running,
Yeah,
making sure all the chat and everything works initially.
yeah. So I think Issa will share like the final bits now. Then we'll have about 10 minutes for questions, and then we can finish the session.
Yeah. And literally, this is what I just wanted to share. Because with Midjourney, what's useful is having as much specificity as possible. And by the way, if anyone wants to help with tea brands and stuff, we've already gotten started. But look at this. Look at that. Advent calendars based on this. Using ChatGPT actually helped me come up with something that was more specific for Midjourney. So in terms of, oh, Alex, that's so sweet. How about a LinkedIn group by Issa where we can continue chat about this? Yeah, I would love that. And I was going to say that I think Britt Cerrone was going to get the MVP for the most engaged person in the group at the moment. So great job. I think we have to give a shout out to Angelica for the wonderful bearded dragon idea. And then I think Alex, yes, I would love that. So I would love to invite you guys and let's just keep having a chat, because guess what? What I wanted to help you guys was with, and hopefully I've done that. And I know it's all been a bit rushed, but I am happy to talk about this more. And please raise your hands if I've succeeded even partially. I wanted to help you guys figure out how to get started with this. Because the beautiful thing about with people with ADHD is once they get going, and they make incredible and wonderful things. And if you come up with things, have questions and stuff, please send it to me. I would love to hear that. And yeah, if you thought this was interesting and would like the idea of follow-ups and things, sessions in which I can go more into deep dives, please raise your hand as just an indicator. And Gabrielle, I can't see the hands for some reason. So yes, yes, a session for not getting carried away or distracted by everything. It's
yes, we got hands up. We got a few hands
awesome.
up. There's also a few questions on the Q&A.
Sure.
Which I don't know if you might
thank you
have.
for everyone who has to jump now, and I'll look into the questions. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Just bear with us. You're probably gonna get in the next couple of days. You're gonna get that little survey, and we really appreciate if you can take a moment to give us your thoughts.
If anyone wanted to say for leaving, feel free to, if they want a one-on-one session.
Just contact QR code and go on the link. And in the meantime, if you want to leave the link there while we answer the questions,
sure.
that can probably be very helpful so people can get their phones out. So there is a question here, perhaps a question for later. What might be good custom instructions to put in the account settings that would be helpful for ADHD conversations with ChatGPT?
Okay, so that's a really good question. There's two things I could suggest, because one of the things that's difficult with a lot of ADHD, so Britt, I've put the QR code on the screen. If you can't see it, I'll send a link via email through Gabrielle. But yeah, can everyone see the QR code? Gabrielle, can you see it?
I can see it.
So perfect. So I'll answer that question. So one of the things that's difficult in terms of ADHD is the repetition or like the monotony of stuff. And what is helpful there, oh, and by the way, one other thing is if you get the ChatGPT app, you can even just speak to it, which is really fun. But if I go to ChatGPT, I think the thing the person is asking is that when you go to the ChatGPT settings, it actually allows you to put in, to change some things, but there's another thing here, which is actually probably more relevant. Custom instructions. Customize your ChatGPT by providing specific details and guidelines for your chat. What you could do here is actually say something at a high level, like a global level, saying, anytime ChatGPT responds, don't give me answers for everything in one go. Let's take it one at a time. You could also say that, oh, jargon or some sort type of stuff like that gets really overwhelming. So please just simplify things as much as possible. And another thing might be, oh, I have a tendency to not ask too many questions unless I'm given the space to do so. Can you please end certain prompts by asking me whether I understood something? There's a similar but not exactly the same thing in Midjourney that gets a bit advanced because their user experience is Discord related, but you can have a / prefix. Let's say you wanted to put something in, but didn't want to type it again and again and again. You can tell Midjourney, and let me just see if I can show it to you quickly. I don't have one. Yeah, prefer suffix. But the idea is, let's say you wanted to say all of these things, like the style of a brand. You could take that, and let's say for your company, you just generate certain types of images with certain brand guidelines. You can put those as a suffix so that every question or everything you share has that already put in, so you don't have to just type it again and again. So cool. I'm just checking. Hopefully that answers your question. Gabriel, do you have another question?
Yes, there is one also. Somebody asked, can I make ChatGPT answer and mentor me like it was a famous person who has published a lot of content over the past decade?
That's a really good question. I do believe so, because it's really funny, but I've asked ChatGPT to role play certain roles. So for example, I've helped a person put in guidelines and write prompts so that they can emulate real interviews. What you can also do is, just like there's other more maybe IP conflict related stuff where you can clone celebrity voices, what you could do is have, and I can show you, right? And this is a really good question. And this is what I love, because when you put people with ADHD and people who love like coming up with, who have great ideas, but for example, gaining up the momentum and stuff might be difficult. This is what happens, because let's check this out. So I'm pitching my startup to Sir Richard Branson. And would like to understand if and what he might have to say in terms of feedback / concerns. Can you please use the content that from his past talks / writings to emulate him briefly while I give an elevator pitch? Let's see what happens. There. Here's the things that he cares about and the things that would be good to emphasize. Right? And yes, the thing is, if the internet has the information about this, right? So if anyone wants, and otherwise I can just ping this, I can ping a version of this on myself. If anyone has a startup pitch that they can just quickly copy and paste in, go for it. Otherwise, I'll just think of something. So I'm just gonna say something along the lines of I am creating an Uber-like service that comes to collect you and drive you to a destination, but with a car full of kittens. I'm, of course, just doing this off the top of my head. What do you think? Let's see what this comes up with. Like, I can't say as to what the degree of accuracy, and I just came up with something really high level. But it's coming up with concerns and other things. But yeah, and I think on that bombshell, this is there. But actually, there's one last thing which I'll put on. And then after that, Gabrielle, it would be good to just say when we're wrapping up so that if anyone has any other questions, they'll pop it in. But
Yeah,
here,
it's time for final
yeah,
comments because we're getting to the end of the session. So
yeah.
I think once you finish this, we can give the next steps
So
and get to the end.
an Uber luxury car, a luxury, what's the Uber? Is it Uber Premium?
Uber
Ride,
X?
but with, okay, let's try that. Let's try
Sorry,
Uber,
no, Excel, sorry, Uber Lux.
Uber Lux, perfect. An Uber Lux ride, but with the car full of kittens. Put Sir Richard Branson in the background smiling. And by the way, Midjourney comes up with a lot of more random things than DALL-E. So apologies in advance if it comes up with something really funny. But yeah, Gabrielle, what do you think while this is loading? Shall we say 12 more minutes? Shall we say 5 more? Like, should we wrap up at 6:30 fully? Just
Yeah, if you want, we can see if there's any final questions.
yeah,
And then we can wrap up. Let's see how many people are left here. We have 14 people left.
oh,
If you
okay.
have any final questions, please type them now or type them on the Q&A.
Yeah,
We will be looking to put on a second version of this session again and maybe go through different examples so we can complete that. You posted a question about, oh yes, you posted it. Is it on the Q&A? Hang on. Let me
the
see.
question
Yes.
regarding limits of ChatGPT and having ideas versus human/ADHD brain. I like it.
I got it here. So given ADHD are great at ideas, ADHDs are great at ideas. Is there a danger ChatGPT will take this over? ChatGPT will take this over and make us redundant in that space, or rather, what are the limitations of ChatGPT versus a human brain?
Okay. So what's interesting is I think a lot of times when people are worried about these things, sometimes what happens is because it's unclear how it works. And when you're not sure how certain things work, it becomes a bit scary and intimidating. But I think the simplest thing or way to explain some of what ChatGPT does is the specific definition is a language model AI. So it's not like it's coming up with unique answers. It's amalgamate, and this might be super wrong, but it just as an idea to how it works, it amalgamates concepts and finds things and presents them in like a nice package. And the way I think about it is not that, oh, ChatGPT will take this over. No, it's because ChatGPT does what you want it to do. So what's cool about it, and the thing that I love is not, oh my God, will ChatGPT take my, like what I can do well away. It's not generating like 200 ideas a minute, which is sort of what happens in our brains. Instead, it gives me the ability to take those ideas that might not have reached fruition or would be hard for me to understand or visualize and make them something. it's really powerful because what happens there is it actually extends what is possible for me and all of us. And I love the Richard Branson kittens. And by the way, Janani, G, how do you know if you have it? There's a couple of resources and stuff I would love to share, and you're welcome to book in a call to have a more in-person discussion. But yeah, in terms of what ChatGPT, I'm more excited about what ChatGPT will help all of us do rather than what it'll take away. Because whatever role you're in, whatever thing, it can remove the unnecessary friction. And you're most welcome, Britt. And it's, I'll just say this. One of the things that's difficult with ADHD is not only like the imposter syndrome, rejection sensitivity to this, that, but there's also times when it's like, oh, we're too much, or we can overwhelm certain people. We can do this, we can do that. And some of us may be lucky in our lives to have someone or some things that are the resources that can help us do what we want to. But also some of us are lucky enough to have people in our lives who can provide this support and actually engage with you without being negative or seemingly negative or judgmental. And that's sort of sometimes what I do with my clients, and I help them make the space and create the structure for it. But here's a place where there's literally no judgment. And it's just something that's designed to help you, not dismiss you, not tell you to go try meditation unless you're asking it about that. Not say just sit still, just focus. What it does is it says, you know, the parts of your life or your day-to-day that are hard, it can remove a lot of that. So yeah, and like the other day I had to review some documents which are just really long, and I got ChatGPT to do it. The other day I wanted to just replace a bunch of text in something which I would need to know Python or other stuff. Oh, and great point, by the way, Angelica. If any of you are curious about things like ADHD coaching and you're in the UK and or a UK resident, access to work is something that can help you get access to support in terms of virtual assistants to help with admin. It can help you with getting someone to help manage invoices or certain things. There's a lot of things like that. And while I'll share a bit more of this another way, I wanted to give you guys a sneak peek of something, which is something that actually came about from my Access to Work application. It's behind a password now, but if anyone's interested in helping me test it, yeah, basically, if you're not sure what you could get in terms of equipment or other stuff for Access to Work, and the images are all like skewed because of a problem I ran into with Webflow, but oh, what are the things that could help? Let's check balance board. And yeah, the background's also missing, but ADHD friendly content and stuff to share that. So that's the sneak peek. But one of the things I also do is that if people are concerned about the costs and stuff being prohibitive, but are very interested in ADHD coaching, what I do is I actually, because I've helped a lot of people apply and have successful outcomes, I can have a chat with them about how to go about that, etc. And sometimes people need help now rather than later because Access to Work can takes some time to get back to you. But what's interesting is for the people who work with me, I have a certain number of quotas where I offer people sessions on the basis that because what Access to Work does is from the date of application, rather than the date of acceptance, if you get accepted, you can retroactively cover those costs. So I have a fixed number of like slots and stuff where I offer people that. But if people are also just curious as to doing the access to work stuff, what I do is sort of be like their ChatGPT, and I'm like, no, just talk to me. I'll turn it all into the application form. And I can also advise on what might work. And if needed, I can also support with coaching or just give you information for that. But yeah, Gabriel, any other?
Okay, brilliant. Yes, I think we do need to wrap up the session now because, yeah, we're way over the time, but then we have a lot more to look forward to for the next session.
Yeah,
So, I
excited for the
mean,
response.
thank you again, everybody, for being part of the session, for engaging with the session, asking all the questions, and just being there. You are all awesome. Isa, thank you so much for taking us through. You know, this is just the beginning of a longer conversation that may turn into a kind of more specialized workshops or anything. I mean, we're always welcome to ideas.
Yeah,
So
and
bear with us. It might take us a couple of days to send some links, whether it's videos or notes or surveys. But we will get there, and we're hoping that everybody will help us just by be you guys and responding and engaging.
and yeah, thank you so much everyone for coming. And I really appreciate the enthusiasm, the enthusiasm, the energy, the inclusiveness, and it's just so wonderful to talk about this because it's literally like, here's my tribe and here's the people who we can chat with and just be excited about. And this will probably sound really cheesy and cliche, but I'm okay with that. I make dad jokes most of the time. But the thing is, one thing, and I promise it'll be 60 seconds, and I know we have 3 minutes max. One of the reasons I chose the name for my brand is of coaching, which is, just in case anyone needs a reminder, it's ADHDwell.io. It's because for most of my life, I was given the instruction, just do one thing. And what I realized is there's a Goldilocks zone. If you give me one thing, I get bored because there's not enough novelty. 2 things, okay. 3 things, getting there. 4 things, perfect. 5 things, 6 things, all the plates fall. So the analogy I used was that think of different wells that you have. When one well goes dry, and you have to have a small amount, otherwise you just never complete things, you just keep moving forward. If a well dries out, a lot of us just keep trying to get water from that and get frustrated. But what I suggest is move on to the next well and wait for that other one to fill up. But what was really fun about this is also that I realized something else in retrospective, that the brand name also comes across as like an instruction or a verb or an action, which is remember to ADHD well. And yeah, I think that's it. So just a quick shout out again, Gabriel, you're awesome. And thank you so much for the patience and understanding with everything and for filling in the gaps whenever my neurodiversity means I slip up. Really
That's
appreciate
right.
you as part
With
of.
pleasure. All right, everybody. We'll hope to see you in the next event. We're hopefully going to do an in-person event in January, but just bear with us so we can confirm on dates, times, places, and we're all gathered together. So enjoy the rest of your evening and the rest of the month.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
And
you.
you can find us on Meetup as well as ADHD and Tech, which is our parent event. Thank you.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay. Bye.